What is up, diehards? Wes Monell here, in the building for Awol Sports. Talking Tony Romo today. Although I've thrown Denver into the conversation for Tony Romo's services, and I'm sure most of you see how that could be a good fit. The best landing spot for the soon-to-be-released quarterback is definitely Houston. Romo wouldn't have to move. Gets to play in the same state for a playoff-caliber team and an offensive-minded head coach in Bill O'Brien. One of my favorite coaches in the league. For a team that has won consecutive AFC South titles, consecutive playoff appearances, and they won a playoff game last year. The Texans ranked first in yards allowed on the defensive side of the football, even after J.J. Watt was lost for the season. Watt, I know he suffered some back injuries, just like Romo. I just don't think that J.J. is close quite yet to retiring. I'm not glossing over the seriousness, but if I had to pick between Watt and, say, Rob Gronkowski for who would play longer, it's a legitimate question. The division is winnable as usual in the AFC South. It's Houston's to lose, and they've won those two division titles with a total of 6 quarterbacks taking snaps. Not that you care, but this could be a good thing for Brock Osweiler and or Tom Savage, depending on who the team kept in the wake of a possible Romo signing. They would learn from a veteran that's been through a lot of things. The public eye, on his relationships, pros and cons on the football field, the star for America's team, so to speak. A former Pro Bowler. A player that's consistently top 7 at the most important position. He wouldn't haunt the Cowboys by going to a rival in this scenario, and he would leave the NFC entirely. He would inherit Lamar Miller and DeAndre Hopkins. Will Fuller looks like he's going to be a playmaker after a solid rookie campaign. The offensive line played about average, ranking 18th on Pro Football Focus. The good news, left tackle Dwayne Brown had a bounce-back season and only allowed 1 sack in 2016. That's the blind side. I know it's easy to dismiss the Texans because they don't have much flair. You can point at a weak division, but Andrew Luck and Marcus Mariota, they haven't been winning the division. This team got it done without a reliable QB. Hopkins is a great receiver. Yeah, his numbers dipped with Osweiler. That's not a guy that you think too much about, right? So why take it out completely on Nuke Hopkins? Taking out the whole sex appeal thing. Put Romo and the injured Derek Carr on the field for that less than stellar playoff game between the Texans and the Raiders. Really, who would you pick? Because without both quarterbacks, Houston wins 27-13. And rewinding back to the regular season, Carr versus Osweiler, the Raiders scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to win 27-20. That's a one-possession game. By the way, not that we're solely comparing the Texans to the Raiders. Houston has the 8th easiest schedule based off of last year's records heading into 2017. The Raiders have the 4th toughest. That's another thing to look at when it comes to who improves in the standings and who drops. The Texans have favorable schedule. And actually, their entire division does more than any other in football. There's a lot to like when it comes to Romo when he gets released to stay in the same state to start for a playoff team. If you're Dallas, you're not going to get much value in a trade for a 34-year-old, injury-prone quarterback. If you're like me, you're skeptical that he can endure an entire season, but at the same time, you realize he can still make an impact and would be worth the risk since the window to contend doesn't stay open forever. It doesn't. The Texans can even upgrade the line via free agency or the draft. There's still other moves that can be made to improve with or without Romo to defend their AFC South championship. Denver, on the other hand, you can't deny the 2,000 plus yards between Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Mike McCoy is back at offensive coordinator, and they gave Peyton Manning the opportunity to ride off into the sunset, which he did. Not to say that the strength of schedule is the end-all be-all. The Broncos have the number one toughest schedule to face on paper. The 24th ranked O-line, and aside from center Matt Paradis, the line wasn't very good. I'm not saying that Trevor Siemian can hold off Paxton Lynch, but as the rookie that actually won the job, in Siemian, won it over Lynch, the team went 9-7, missed the playoffs by only one game. Anytime you get a chance to upgrade under center, you do it without hesitation. So that's why they should put the squeeze on for Romo when the time comes. They have that winning pedigree to their advantage. But if I'm walking in Tony Romo's shoes, I might be looking for a 2-year deal. I'm not sure if I'd get that, but my thinking is, let's say this is my final season. Who has the roster, the coaching staff, and the leadership to not only reach the postseason, but to knock off the Patriots, to play in the Super Bowl? Assuming that I only have 16 games with some postseason action left in me, physically. The second year is for, the competitive nature in me, for contract purposes, trying to get a little bit, trying to get mine. And that's pretty much as far as I consider myself to be playing in win now mode. What players do I see willing to fight in the foxhole and follow my lead? I want a group of guys that want to get in as early as I do, leave just as late, and really put the time in during the off season. All out. Guys that go all out. It may be extremely tough to answer these questions without first-hand perspective. He hasn't been there. He doesn't know these guys. But I'll tell you one thing. Denver pushed Wade Phillips out the door. Elite defensive coordinator that I used to play for if I'm Romo. But the franchise went young. First-time head coach. And yes, of course, like I said, I'm aware that McCoy has experience running things. He's familiar with the offense. But at this point, near the end, with just enough skill and fire left, Romo has to see stability as being one of the more attractive characteristics. That's what Houston has. You're not going to get an offer from New England or Seattle. Nowhere like that. Established. Rings. As of late. Except for Denver. They offer that. But somewhere else that's built their way into that conversation as a playoff mainstay, that's Houston. They've worked their way up. You thought the Raiders and Dolphins were the AFC teams to improve right before our eyes, The Texans made the playoffs just like they did, and they made it the year before when both were sent home after week 17, when they didn't have that great of a season. Houston's a very difficult place to play, where they were at 7-1. 7-1 at home, better than any AFC team. Add Romo, someone that's finished 7 times in the top 10 for passing touchdowns, 6 seasons in the top 10 for completion percentage, and 8 seasons in the top 10 for passer rating. He's made 4 Pro Bowls and is tied for 17th in NFL history with 30 game-winning drives. The Patriots in the playoffs all season actually were sensational. But what if there was a postseason rematch? Texans Patriots in 2017 with both Romo and Watt on the field. Yeah, I know, what if, hypothetical. It's a legit question though, right? Would O'Brien finally beat his mentor, Bill Belichick? Similar to how Dan Quinn and the Falcons just dethroned Pete Carroll and the Seahawks? For the record, no, the Texans and Cowboys are not scheduled to play in 2017. Only if they both made it to the big game. Which would be crazy. An insane story for sure. Interstate Super Bowl. Romo versus Dak Prescott and his former team. You're welcome, Pixar. Better get on that. But the Cowboys do play the Broncos. Now, I'm not saying teams like Arizona wouldn't go for Romo, but Carson Palmer's back for a year. San Francisco, hey, they are in the quarterback market. Even if they draft one with the second overall pick, I mean, no one expects a trade to go through for Kirk Cousins this offseason. We all know Romo would be a stopgap quarterback. You're just hoping for a full season. Best case scenario, I see 2, 3 might be stretching it, especially if, you're a contender in the playoffs and you win. Then he'd call it a day, as he should. But as of right now, I don't think he gets traded. I think he gets released and goes to the AFC. Those are the most likely destinations. And I think the Texans situation is fantastic and the best overall situation for Romo. The Broncos being the next best option. I don't really see him sticking in the NFC, not going to the Redskins or anything like that, not going to San Francisco, who's starting from scratch. But John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, they might be good salesmen. They might sell him. I don't know. Can't promise you that. So what do you think? You've heard me talk about this before. You've heard the whole world talk about this over the past several months. It's been coming. It's been coming. It's been a topic of mine since October, before Halloween. I brought up the Broncos back then. Around Halloween time, November time, brought up the Texans. Like, you know what? This Brock thing, I was trying to give Brock a chance. I don't know. Never really seen him play. He never really got expansive playing time. So it's like, well, let me see. It was a little too early. Simeon, it still might be a little too early to call, but you're never going to hesitate to get that quarterback. Ever. You do what you got to do. The window of opportunity closes quicker than you can plan for. So, hey, if you feel you're close, if you made the playoffs and you feel he's an upgrade, or if you were on the cusp, just missed out, or if you think you can make that push to win a couple more games to get in, win the division, do what you got to do. Seriously, do what you got to do. If you can protect Romo, I think he can endure several hits, but he can't endure 35, 40 sacks next season ever again. That's too much. You got to keep him under 30, fairly clean, to where he's getting you 3,500 plus yards, 25 plus touchdowns. I think those are reasonable because you want to run the football with him. And, that's what New England does. Yeah, Brady balled 27 touchdowns, 2 picks, whatever it turned out to be. But they ran the ball. They utilized the running backs all season long. Come playoff time, yeah, it wasn't really their strength, but they use it to win matchups throughout the season, to come out with the best record in football, and then Brady takes over in the playoffs. I don't see why you couldn't do that in this situation if you're the Texans or the Broncos. Well, that's going to do it this time. Like I say, Twitter fingers, Awol_West. What do you think about Tony Romo? Whether you're a Cowboys fan or not, whether you're a Texans, Broncos fan or not, whether your team needs a quarterback or not, put yourself in Romo's shoes. Think a little bit, thinking cap on. Do you really want to stay in Dallas? You're not going to play. Dak hasn't really put himself in a position to make you think, oh, he's going to get hurt by week 6. He hasn't played like RG3 or Michael Vick. He hasn't been as reckless. So you want to go, right? You feel you got times against you, clearly. So where do you want to go? Who gives you the best chance to win? You're in Tony Romo's shoes. Hit me on Twitter, the AWOL Sports Facebook page. I'm curious. I know all signs point to the AFC. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Would you still be like, if you're Romo, would you go up to Jerry Jones and company and say, hey, trade me for whatever you can get. These are the teams I want to go to, and then just let the process lay out? Or, yeah, I want to be let go. Please. Let me go. Let me hand choose. Handshake, I won't go to a rival. Something like that. All right, diehards. Have yourself an awesome weekend. Awesome weekend. I'm out.